Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last week of school. Kind of for our last time together, I want to leave you with a few closing words. None of them have anything to do with English or Shakespeare or poetry or anything like that necessarily, but rather these are just kind of my personal values and words of advice to you as you learn and grow as a person. So I have 10 kind of morals that I want to explain and talk about. And they are things that I've thought about for the last maybe 5 years and have been kind of compiling and crafting together. And I think that, this is how I live my life. And I think that there's a lot to learn from these bullet points here about just kind of like general happiness and fulfillment in life. So, without further ado, let's take a look at some of my pieces of advice here. All right, number one. I saw this kind of rephrasing suggestion a few years ago, and it really struck a note with me. And basically, the idea is that when you find yourself saying that I don't have time for this, whether you say it to another person or to yourself, try to rephrase that in your head as saying, this is not a priority for me. And then you can start thinking more reflectively about how you're spending your time. So, like for instance, if you think, if you say, oh, I don't have time to do as much reading as I want to do. Think of that in your head as reading right now is not a priority for me. And if that doesn't resonate, that doesn't kind of jive, maybe think about, how am I spending my time? How am I choosing to spend my time throughout the day? Because how you spend your time is a reflection of what your priorities are, not necessarily what you say, but how you're spending your time. Number two, kind of related to the first one here about priorities and what you stand for. But sometimes there's a difference between what people say or what people think that they stand for and what people actually stand for. And I mean, like in terms of beliefs and morals. Really, I think the better judge of how you or someone else, what you believe in or what you stand for, is how you spend your time and how you spend your money. So if you say or you think to yourself, oh, I support uh, shopping at small businesses, but in reality you only buy things from Amazon because it's fast and it's cheap and it's convenient, then you don't actually support small businesses or believe in supporting small businesses, because that's not how you're spending your time. That's not how your money. That's just what you think you believe in. That's just what you say that you believe in. So I encourage you to be reflective about how you spend your time and how you spend your money, because that is a true judge of what your beliefs are. Discipline and motivation. So I think the key to being successful in life is you need both discipline and motivation. And I think that motivation is kind of the starting point. It's the flashy, cool, fun component of the two here, whereas discipline is the day in, the day out, the grind. It's not quite as sexy necessarily as motivation, but I think both are equally important. In fact, probably though, discipline is maybe a little bit more important than motivation, because that is the nitty gritty component of the two. So it's great to be motivated about something. You're not going to be successful if you're not motivated, typically. But really, what's important is putting in the hours, the not fun stuff. Doing the extra reps in the weight room or the extra laps at the end of practice. Waking up early. Those things are going to make you be successful, not just the motivation. Number four, don't feel tied down in a couple of years when you're having to decide your major. What you major in doesn't decide who you are or what you'll do with the rest of your life. It's never too late to change what your career path or your life trajectory. Um, and don't think that you're pigeonholed, right? Don't say, oh, I majored in science, therefore for the rest of my life I have to work in the field of science, right? Harrison Ford, for instance, the actor who plays Han Solo in Star Wars, he was a carpenter up until his 30s before he switched into the field of acting, and now he's one of the most famous actors of all time, right? So he lived a whole life before Star Wars, before he even got into his true passion. So it's never too late to change your career. It's never too late to change your trajectory in life. Pay attention to who you surround yourself with. Is your group of friends people who bring you up, who support you, who want to help you achieve your goals and your dreams? Or do they feed into gossip? Do they feed into drama? Are they negative all the time? Are you afraid to speak up to them about your dreams and things that inspire you because you think they'll cut you down? And it can be very tough to change friend groups or to branch out to make new friends or to um, end relationships or let relationships kind of fade with people who are negative. But in the long run, it is always, always, always worth it. Spend time with people who bring you up, not people who are pulling you down. Always try to improve, whether that is through school, through sports, your social life, any component in life where you spend your time, you should reflect on that time and try to improve on it. I keep a Google Doc, for instance, each year throughout the school year, and I will put little bullet points on there of things that I want to improve for the next school year. Maybe a lesson I want to change a certain part of it, or I want to add this cool new article or discussion point that I've thought of or I learned about. And then during the summer, a couple weeks before the school year starts, I address all the items on that list. And right now, my list is about 4 pages long of bullet points just from this particular school year. I have notes on every single unit that we've studied and how I want to improve that for next year. I think this is the best way to and continually make yourself a better person. Reflect and look for ways to improve. Complaining and action. Invariably in your life, you'll come across a stressful situation, whether it's at work or school or whatever, where things suck, and you feel like you want to complain or you need to complain about it. And I think it's okay to do a little bit of complaining. Definitely some venting can be very healthy for you. But I think if you're going to continually complain about something, you need to take action to try to address whatever the problem is. Complaining is the easy part, right? It's very easy to complain about something. Taking action and trying to address your complaints is the tough part. And I think that if you're going to complain, you should at least try to take some action to fix whatever that problem is. And if you're in a situation where you can't fix it, you're physically unable to fix it for whatever reason, then how much good is complaining doing, right? Maybe it's okay to vent, but just continual complaining about something you can't fix or something you won't fix, I think, is just kind of a waste of mental effort and energy. Number 8, I think these are the 3 most important components of physical health and mental health especially. Getting enough sleep at night, we're talking at least 8 hours, none of that 6 to 8 stuff. I think 8 or more is really what most people need. Obviously there's some variance between people. Getting enough to drink throughout the day, and not just soda or sports drinks or coffee, but actual water, and having enough downtime. The first 2 will make you feel physically just so much better. You'll have a lot more energy, a lot more mental acuity. You'll be more present. You'll be more focused. And then the third one, downtime. That I think I've found in my personal experience to be the best defense against anxiety. I find that I get anxious about things when I haven't had enough time to stop and think and sort things through mentally. right? Things start piling up in your brain, and if you don't, take enough time and put your phone down and turn the TV off and stop and think about them, then they can begin to overwhelm you. So I think getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, and having enough time, even if it's 10 minutes a day where you do nothing but think, I think that is three most important things you can do for your health. Number 9, politics and religion. I think that recently in politics and religion, there's a big sense of polarization, which means a splitting off into two different and opposed sides, right? I think like North Pole, South Pole polarization. And I think that it's important to not just follow a political party and do whatever that party does because you belong to that party or you align yourself with that party. I think it's far more important to put your morals first, to think about each issue individually and then decide for yourself how you feel about it. Don't just say, oh, I'm a Republican, so I believe this, or oh, I'm a Democrat, so I should believe this. Really, I think it's far more important to pick your issues and then decide how you feel about them. And then, maybe you happen to line up mostly with one of the two parties. But just blindly aligning yourself with one of two choices in a world that's so complex and filled with so many rich, deep issues, I think that's a silly thing to do, to just blindly follow a party or a religion. And lastly, number 10, so here's my key to happiness. I think you have to find a good balance between pleasure and fulfillment. And this can be a very challenging thing to do. Let me give you some examples here of what I mean, the difference between pleasure and fulfillment. When I was running track in high school and college, our workouts were not pleasurable. In fact, they were oftentimes quite painful. But when you finish a workout that's hard, and you're sweaty and you're sore and you're out of breath, you feel extremely fulfilled by it. It's a sense of achievement. It's a sense of accomplishment. But it's not fun. It's not what I would describe as being fun. It's a very different feeling. Fun, on the other hand, is sitting down and playing a couple hours of video games with your friends. Not that can't be fulfilling for some people, but I think that more so skews to the pleasure end of the spectrum there. And if you only have one of these things, if your life is only filled with pleasure or only filled with things that are really grueling and hard and lots of work, I think it's going to be very hard to find happiness. You need to find a balance between these two. Do things in life that bring you pleasure. Do things in life that bring you fulfillment. And that's how you become happy. At least, that's what I've noticed in my own life. And it's a tough balance, but usually when I'm feeling crummy, I reflect on those two things. And maybe I just have been laying around on the couch eating junk food, which is quite pleasurable, and I haven't done anything fulfilling that day, and I kind of adjust accordingly. So reflect on those two and see if you can strike a good balance, and that I think will bring you a lot of happiness. All right, if you made it this far, congratulations. Those are my morals, my beliefs. None of them, like I said, have to do with English so much as just being a human being, a person. I hope you can find, maybe a couple of them and take them to heart in the future, and hopefully they're helpful to you. It's been a great school year, kind of a weird one at the end, once we hit the middle of third quarter, but have a wonderful summer. Find some hobbies, some interests, explore them, find some passions, be productive, and hopefully I'll see you next year. Don't become a stranger, and you know how to get a hold of me. All right, this is Mr. McIntosh, and wishing everyone a wonderful, happy summer.